Yeah, I'm the Veteran, welcome to the Veteran channel. And when I was hospitalised with a blood clot, I remember I was in this ward, just away from everywhere, from everyone. It didn't feel like I was under care. It felt like I was in a prison, to be honest. And it was like, 6 beds, half of them were full, so it was like, it was just four men, basically. And I was there. I didn't know it was a blood clot. I've got the diagnosis now and all the info, but I just remember thinking, like, I'm not going to be able to walk again. And none of the nurses, none of the doctors told me anything positive. They didn't say anything. They just, like, kept taking blood. They pierce your arm to hook you up to IV, and they just kind of leave you there. And bed rest is meant to magically fix you. I was like, if it was a smidgen more serious, I think I would have died. Like, I was almost sure that I was going to die anyway. Because no one told me any different. If it was more serious, I would have given up. I already did give up. But you're not meant to see, like, I'm not angry. I don't get angry unless, it's not the moment anymore. I kind of internally get those feelings, and I never express it. But there's one guy who's in there, who's across the room from me, in the bed, who kept getting up, and all the nurses said, like, this was all the interaction that I saw. The nurses said, you shouldn't be out of bed. Like, it seems like there was no care at all. The only care that there was whether or not you were in a bed or not. And that was it. Didn't care if you were in pain, because you're on, the minimalist painkillers that there is, which is like, the Adderall, paracetamol, and water. Like, they use water as a painkiller that was hooked up in your IV. And there was one nurse that not only made the guy across from the room, from the bed that I was in, like, he actually, started yelling, even though he was in much more like a critical kind of condition than I was. And I was thinking, like, what are you? Why? I was like, this nurse was like so well dressed, as if it wasn't Christmas, because that's when I was hospitalised, as if it wasn't, the last ward in the hospital, like the bottom of the barrel, kind of thing, because it was a horrible place. But this one guy walked in as if he was looking to buy and sell jewellery. I was like, I was angry, but you don't say anything because it's polite. You got to put manners first, even if you're dying. But I'm so glad that the guy, the other patient that was in there, tried to say something. But the problem is, though, it wasn't enough. I don't think it was enough. Because he was like, he was walking around, hands behind his back, as if he was there to buy a car. Like walking around, like I would not have called on him for help, for anything. Even if I had a cold, I would not call on him for care, and yet he was a nurse. And it's like, you're in the wrong profession. Like, that's what you. When you see something like this, you're in a situation, you're in an environment, and then there's just something really wrong about it. It's like, why was he there as a nurse? Because he didn't help anyone. Like, no one called on him for help. It was like, we all knew, we all knew that he was not going to be a good nurse. You know, there's always that saying of like, leave it to the professionals because they know best. But in that moment, I did not feel like, not only safe, I didn't feel safe at all. I felt insulted by, well, by the universe, not only for, you know, being in fucking hospital for something that didn't need actual treatment, not only for the lack of communication, the lack of urgency, you know? Because that's what a nurse and a doctor and the hospital should do. And there was none of that. It was just like, if you were going to die, you probably would have passed away. Like, there wouldn't have been enough, you know, call to action kind of thing. I cannot think of an equivalent of seeing that nurse waltz into the ward while there was like 4 or 5 guys, because someone came in late after I got in there, all like in bed, like pain, confused, not knowing their condition. And yet, this guy with, I know he wasn't trying to do this, but like, cause someone obviously like called on anyone to kind of man the shift. See, that's why it's too polite, because in a situation where you need, you know, everything to go right because your life is on the line, and when it doesn't go right, you can do, well, you can't do anything except for be angry and ask the obvious question of, why me? You know, why is this happening to me? And the other guys there as well. Like, it was just a bad situation, and the person who's there on the job made it all so much worse. So never feel bad about messing up at work, because at least you're there where you're meant to be, and you're not like unqualified, you're not a fraud. You know, you're the actual man for the job, even if it gets a bit too difficult. And as well, at least you're not overdressed. Because I think it's better to be underdressed than overdressed. He looked like an assassin, if anything. Like the thoughts that were going through my head, I was like, he's a spy. He's here to kill someone. And no, it wasn't an interesting action movie. It wasn't a spy movie. It was just idiots, professional idiots, making bad calls, putting the wrong people on the job. Luckily, no one died, but that's like a really, that's not even a silver lining, it's a mild burgundy line. It's not even in the clouds, it's in the dirt.